I want to talk about something that's been all over the defense and tech news cycle over the last few months. And I'm going to be straight with you. I'm only going to tell you what has been publicly confirmed and sourced. No speculation, no hot takes, just the timeline of what happened. This is about an AI model called Mythos, the company that built it, called Anthropic, and the Department of Defense. And as sailors who operate in and around AI systems every day, you need to understand this story. Let's start from the beginning. In July 2025, the Department of Defense awarded contracts to Anthropic, Google, OpenAI, and xAI, up to $200 million each, to accelerate DoD adoption of advanced AI for critical national security challenges. Claude became, according to Anthropic, the department's most widely deployed frontier AI model, used across intelligence analysis, modeling and simulation, operational planning, and cyber operations. That's the foundation. The DoD and Anthropic had a working relationship. Claude was on classified networks. Then, the negotiations went sideways. As Anthropic began deploying Claude on the DoD's GenAI.mil platform, the Pentagon requested that Anthropic, and other AI companies, allow their models to be used for all lawful purposes, without restriction. Anthropic was willing to adapt its policies, but drew two firm lines. It would not allow Claude to be used for mass domestic surveillance, and it would not allow Claude to power fully autonomous weapon systems without human oversight over targeting and firing decisions. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei stated publicly that autonomous weapons may prove critical for our national defense, but today, frontier AI systems are simply not reliable enough to power fully autonomous weapon systems. That's a direct quote. That's the line Anthropic would not cross.
The Pentagon set a deadline of 5:01 p.m. on February 27th for Anthropic to agree to its terms. When Anthropic did not agree, President Trump ordered all federal agencies to immediately cease using Anthropic's technology. Secretary Hegseth simultaneously designated Anthropic a supply chain risk, the first time that designation had ever been applied to an American company. Contractors were directed to certify they do not use Anthropic products in their military work. The DoD's official position. From the very beginning, this has been about one fundamental principle: the military being able to use technology for all lawful purposes. March 9th, 2026, Anthropic fights back in court. Anthropic filed two federal lawsuits challenging the supply chain risk designation, one in the Northern District of California, one in the D.C. Circuit. Anthropic argued the designation violated the Administrative Procedures Act, constituted First Amendment retaliation, and denied due process. Dozens of researchers at rival companies, including OpenAI and Google DeepMind, filed supporting briefs, arguing the designation could harm U.S. AI competitiveness and chill public discussion about AI safety. A federal judge granted a preliminary injunction in March, describing the designation as likely unlawful, citing First Amendment retaliation concerns. The D.C. Circuit, however, denied a separate emergency motion, leaving the designation in effect for covered defense systems. April 7th, 2026, Mythos enters the picture. Anthropic announced a new frontier AI model called Claude Mythos Preview H and an initiative called Project Glasswing, a consortium of tech companies using Mythos to find and fix vulnerabilities in critical software. Anthropic stated that Mythos had already found thousands of high-severity vulnerabilities across every major operating system and web browser, and committed up to $100 million in usage credits to open-source security organizations. Anthropic's own technical report confirmed Mythos autonomously identified and exploited a 17-year-old remote code execution vulnerability in FreeBSD, with no human involved after the initial request. They limited Mythos to roughly 40 organizations due to cybersecurity concerns, and did not release it to the public. June 11, 2026, the Senate hearing. During a Senate Banking Committee hearing, Senator Mark Warner of Virginia stated that the head of the NSA and U.S. Cyber Command, General Joshua Rudd, told him directly that Mythos broke into almost all of our classified systems, not in weeks, but in hours. This was during an authorized testing exercise conducted through Project Glasswing. A U.S. official confirmed to the Associated Press that Mythos identified certain vulnerabilities within hours during the testing, but clarified that identifying vulnerabilities is not the same as successfully exploiting them. The NSA declined to comment. Anthropic also declined to comment. That distinction matters. Identified, not necessarily exploited. Those are two different things. June 12, 2026. Export controls. The Commerce Department issued a directive barring foreign nationals, including non-citizen employees within Anthropic itself, from accessing Fable 5 and Mythos 5. Anthropic suspended both models for all customers to comply. This marked the first time the United States applied export controls directly to an AI model, rather than to hardware or chips. A significant regulatory precedent. Where it stands right now, June 24, 2026. As of May 2026, the DoD CTO confirmed Anthropic remains blacklisted from defense contracts, but called Mythos a separate national security moment. Anthropic's lawsuits in both courts are still ongoing. The company is excluded from DoD contracts, but can continue working with other government agencies while litigation proceeds. More than 100 cybersecurity executives from companies including Adobe and NVIDIA have written to the administration urging it to lift restrictions on Mythos, arguing that removing the best cyber defense tools without a good reason, when adversaries are rapidly advancing, puts the United States at a disadvantage.
Here's why this matters to you as a sailor. The relationship between AI companies and the DoD is not just a business story. It determines what tools your commanders have, what systems protect your networks, and what guardrails exist on the AI that operates in your environment. This situation raises real questions about who controls AI when it's used in national security, about what restrictions should exist on autonomous weapons, and about what happens when government and private industry can't agree on the rules. I'm not here to tell you who's right. The courts haven't finished deciding that. What I'm telling you is, this is happening right now. It directly affects the force you serve in, and you should know the facts. We'll continue covering this story as it develops.